We're glad to have you in the third of a series of Geekouts during the Indiana Digital Learning Month. And I'm Michelle with the Office of E-Learning, part of the Department of Education. And with me today is a group of Hoosier educators who are facilitators of MakerSpaces in their schools. Before we get to the introductions, let me share a little bit about our I&E Learn Geekouts. As you can see, it's simply a Google Hangout on air where a group of enthusiastic educators have come together to discuss a topic related to digital learning. And today's topic, MakerSpaces. So while making doesn't necessarily require technology, the experience does call on constructivist learning. And that theory, the pedagogy suited to digital learning, really is what we're focused on. So today we're going to talk to these facilitators, but then again on March 13th, the official Digital Learning Day for the nation, we'll be bringing some of them back with their students so that we can hear their voice on the learning experiences they've had in their makerspaces. And while I've put together some questions for our panelists today, we really want to hear your questions too. And so it looks like we've lost and gained our viewer. This is going to be fun. But we are going to be watching our I&E hashtag on Twitter for questions, and we also have the blue question box right there in your viewer, and we'll see those and can pose those to our panelists as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody.
Hi. Thank you.
All right, so Kurt, let's have you go ahead and start us off on introductions.
I'm Kurt Schleibaum. I teach at Seymour Middle School and Seymour Community Schools. And I started MakerSpace about a year ago, and we currently have about 13, 14 students that come in once a week in the mornings for the MakerSpace.
Awesome, thanks. Jessica?
All right. I'm Jessica Homan. I'm the Library Media Specialist at Noble Crossing in Noblesville Schools. And I provide K-5 MakerSpaces in the Library Media Center during checkout time. So half of the class will do MakerSpaces and the other half will check out, and then they swap.
Wonderful. Leah?
My name is Leah Fields, and I'm with Promise Road Elementary. I'm the media specialist there. We have MakerSpaces during part of our recess time, especially with indoor recess right now. A few kids from each grade level will come down. And they will get to use, we've dubbed it the Tinker Lab, where we have lots of recyclable materials and things like that. So it gives an opportunity for those 1st through 5th grade students to start creating and exploring.
Wonderful, thank you. Leslie, will you tell us about your space and yourself?
I'm Leslie Preddy, and I'm the school librarian at Perry Meridian Middle School on the south side of Indianapolis. I have also published a book for school librarians on MakerSpaces. We've been building our MakerSpace for a few years now, and every Wednesday, yes, that's it. Every Wednesday we have club time, and I have about 60 kids that are regulars during club time, but the MakerSpace is open at any time for somebody to do independent creative thinking and doing.
I love that. Anytime creative thinking. Fantastic. Hi, Megan.
Hi. I'm Megan Scott. I'm an English teacher, librarian, and tech coach at Clinton Prairie High School just outside of Frankfort. We're just getting started with our MakerSpaces. I'm totally inspired by Leslie Preddy. She's awesome. And we've done like 2 activities so far. Students sign up out of their study halls and come down, and then we're looking to expand in the future.
Great. And you know what? I love that you said that, because Leslie has done some pretty phenomenal things and has shared nationally some of her work. So we're really honored to have her, as well as all of you guys here. And the fact that, Megan, you wear so many hats in your district tells us that no matter what size you are, this is possible. We'll come back to that a little bit in a minute. And I wanted to welcome our final panelists today. Penny, glad to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm Penny Patterson. I'm the school media specialist at Hinkle Creek Elementary in the Noblesville School District. And my MakerSpace is available during recesses for 3, 4, and 5, grades 3, 4, and 5. And I also have Maker Nights. I did a round for them last month. We're getting ready for the round in March. And those have been very successful.
Awesome. So I want to go ahead and let's go back through the panel, and not everyone really covered the same piece in their introduction, although a lot of you touched on some really great pieces, like how did you get started, where is your makerspace located, and really how does it run, who comes, when, that sort of thing. So if you didn't get to share that in your intro and you heard someone else touch on that, this is a great time to kind of cover those pieces that you might have missed. Kurt, you want to start us off and we'll just work through the line?
Yeah, I got really lucky setting up my makerspace because I teach Project Lead Away, and I already had a lab setting, so I have lots of tools to use. And we meet in that project lab, and we have, like I said, we meet Thursday mornings. We are looking to expand to afternoons now that we've got it up and rolling. We really support a lot of the other core classes with projects that they're doing. We just got done building catapults with some of them, where if they don't have enough class time or if they don't have support at home to be able to do those things, they can bring it into the makerspace, and we have all the tools readily available for them.
Very nice.
Ours is, like I said, so K through 5, and then it is held during checkout time. So every class comes during the week at their choosing for checkout. We have open access, so kids really have the opportunity to come down anytime they want. We have lots of different stations, and it's hard because to gauge it for kindergartners and 5th graders and that huge gap. So there are some things that I've tried that have not gone so well. So, you know, I don't know if we'll get to sharing all of those things. I think that comes later in the conversation. But it has been really, really cool to see how different grade levels excel at the different tasks that I put out there. So it's pretty neat.
Really great point, though. Glad to share that, Jessica. And I'm sure people will ask us. We do have 5 viewers now. This is a record for our Geekouts. So congratulations, gang. You have drawn the masses to the live event. We do encourage our visitors to share questions, either on Twitter or right here in our browser. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the speaking back over to Leah.
Okay. Well, last summer I reorganized the media center so that we could have our makerspaces. One of the biggest things that we've done is those recyclable materials, just to make this something that we could really do. Our students love it. It's for 1st grade through 5th grade. Most of our time is during recess. A few kids can sign up. They have calendars in the classroom. They know when they can come. But really, I would like for it to be open all the time. I think that's one of the challenges with makerspaces, is finding those blocks of times where students are free to come down and aren't in our classroom. But we're moving in that direction. And to get us started as well, one of the things that I did was put up a piece of paper asking students, what do you want to learn about? And I think that that's something that's really important to get started with all of this. So.
Great tip. Thanks. Leslie, anything you wanted to add to your background on the Makerspace?
Ours is in the library as well, and that's a perfect space for us because it's the only space in the whole school that's flexible and open to all, and that was important to us, that all kids knew that they were welcome and that they could be made aware of the resources and opportunities available to them. We're just grades 7 and 8 right now. We're currently working on building 13 themes in the Makerspace. But we also have silly play areas throughout the library as well, where kids can just do things with their hands to start thinking and making those connections between hands and the mind. I honestly have to thank the LSTA grants and the Indiana State Library, because a lot of what we've done lately is through a grant that we were awarded, and I really, really appreciate that.
I'm glad you gave them a shout out. Thank you. Megan.
Well, we're grades 7 through 12, so junior high and high school, and everything is housed in my library, which is just one gigantic open space with the exception of my office, which is a fishbowl in the middle. So everything is housed there, and we're just kind of, right now we do programs, like I said, where students come out of study hall, and we're just looking at ways that we can help support the curriculum and then fun things that students may not get to do in their classes.
Super. Thank you. And we're back to you, Penny.
Okay. I have a Makerspace in my library, and most of the time they come down at recess. That's 3, 4, and 5. And I usually have 3 or maybe 2 different activities they can choose from. And when those kind of run the course, when I see people aren't coming down or they've all done it, then I change out and give them other activities and challenges to do. I'm also lucky in that I have a classroom outside of the media center that's for my use. And so I have had some classes that are working on projects, and they want everyone to be making something or making props or something for a presentation, and so they might bring the whole class down. I have had a couple, and I'll have to work harder on that. And as I said, I have my maker nights, which usually I have for a grade level. So 3rd grade is one night, 4th and 5th grade would be another night. And I'm also lucky that I have my assistants here, so if I'm off teaching, the kids can still come down, and my assistants kind of overlook them, kind of watch them.
That's another really good consideration for someone who's thinking about doing, creating a makerspace. How can you keep it manned, available for everybody with supervision?
Yeah.
I don't know if any one of you happened to catch today's Pinnovation, which is another one of our Digital Learning Month activities, but it was a small coincidence that our Pinnovator today is actually a maker educator as well. And no coincidence again that she happens to work in a media center. And so I loved her point as she started her Pinnovation was that they'd recently had gone through and cleaned out books, and that really inspired some of the maker activities. And in fact, I used an image of a maker activity that was wood paper books, and it made me think about what you were just saying, Penny. It was a costume building item or idea, and so the idea that you could create wigs for characters when you're telling a story in class or presenting a historical piece, really kind of fun, and it just gives you a different level of connection to your learning. So that brings me to our question about digital tools. We talk about digital learning. This is not just about the technology, but are there in fact any digital tools that your students are using? And I know, Kurt, I know what your response is going to be right off the bat, but let's give everybody a chance. Anybody want to take this off first?
I'll start off.
Okay.
Something I thought about this before, and something that our students have done is when creating something, we want to archive those things. Oftentimes they'll take them with them, or they don't have as much of a chance to explain what they're doing with them. So just using the iPad, the camera that's on the iPad, either taking pictures or taking a video and the students explaining what they created, that's one thing that we have done, and we've had a lot of success with it. So then that way we can save and archive the things that our students are creating.
I love that application. That's actually really powerful when you think about learning across all curricular areas as well. So thanks. That's a great example. Anyone else have ways that they're using digital tools in their makerspace?
We have 4 iPads as one of our stations, and so we've used it for various things. We've done coding with them, and so I'll just lock it into that one app so the kids can't, take pictures of themselves, which is what they always want to do. We've had, YouTube videos on how to use tools in a take-apart tech station, and then they can do some apps of their choice. So we do a lot of different things. I kind of mix it up every once in a while just to give it a change.
Mine are more the hands-on tools. I purchased a saw, a drill, clamps, sewing machine, those kind of things.
No, that's awesome. And actually, what you guys are saying kind of makes me wonder, how many of you have taken student suggestions for new maker activities, and where are your kids getting their ideas? I know this isn't one of our pre-planned questions.
I get a lot of students getting ideas just straight from YouTube. They'll see something that somebody else builds, and they'll bring in the YouTube video or post it to our Google Classroom and say, let's build one.
Awesome example. Anybody else take student suggestions?
We have sort of a window of wonder, and the kids can post their ideas or requests, and they really range from complex to very simple. Like, they keep asking to make puppets. And I never imagined middle school students would want to make puppets, but now I've got to work that into the end of the year because they want to so badly.
That's so funny because we have a puppet stage in our makerspaces. It's one of our stations, and the older kids live it up. Like, that is one of their favorite things to do, and the teachers don't love it because they get a little crazy. But it's pretty funny that even in middle school it carries on.
I think that's great that,
Yeah,
you know, this
when we did our
Go ahead.
we did our book fair at Barnes and Noble in November, and that's kind of where our first makerspace activity really came from. They had done art folds at that book fair, came in and they were like, oh, I want to learn how to do that. So we used some of our weeded books, and they started watching videos and doing these art folds with the books.
Awesome. So I'm going to go to one of our planned questions. So we know Makerspace doesn't have to include technology, but how has the Makerspace mindset supported your district's digital learning initiatives? Anybody want to take this first?
We've moved to.
Go ahead, Leslie.
We've moved to one-to-one devices for, I think next year it's going to be from grades 3 up, I believe. And so there are things that we can do now that they have a one-to-one device. And they can come in and they can work on fabrication for the 3D printer and all sorts of things using that device and then moving forward from there, whereas before we would have had to have found a lab and other space for a group to be able to work.
I think a lot of ours is a really strong vision and mission for our district. You know, we have 3 words: engage, inspire, and empower. And so I feel like we have a lot of support from the administrators to be one-to-one. We applied for the IDOE grant, and so we have 5th graders there's one 5th grade classroom in every building that is one-to-one. And so I think it's all about just thinking differently and taking education to a different level. And I think, you know, technology or not, it's just allowing kids to do what they do naturally and to see that there is value in learning and all of that. So I think that's the biggest thing that, you know, doing these makerspaces, doing Genius Hour, and having that technology available has really changed the face of what we're doing.
I saw a lot of nodding heads. So, you know, you're right. It's about a mind shift in terms of what learning is about. And nothing like Makerspace really makes it student-centered. You don't necessarily have, I'm sure you don't stand in front of your groups and tell them how to get started, right? I mean, they're probably in there and ready to go before you even turn around. So I think this is exciting. We have a question. It's kind of a comment, kind of a question. Dr. Hilton has been commenting on Twitter. She's one of our now 7 viewers. And she's looking for a way to create a makerspace during their district's Summer Learning Conference. Anybody have ideas? I don't know. I know some of you were at ICE this fall, and ICE, Indiana Connected Educators, I'm a part of that work as well, and we're very excited to start doing more with Makerspace, including having Sylvia Martinez out here to talk with us. What suggestions might you have for someone who wants to create that experience for others as a just exploratory opportunity? Thoughts?
I think if she wants to invite people to just sponsor like a creation station, and she just has all these areas where adults can create just like the kids. Anytime I work with adults with makerspaces, they're just as excited as the kids. And people always want ideas to be inspired to take back.
Good point.
You don't have to have a budget either. Most of my maker supplies I've just sent out to the schools and to the parents and asked, you know, clean out your craft boxes, clean out your sewing boxes, and send in stuff you aren't using, and just gotten a tremendous response. I'm going to ask for scrap wood soon, and I'm kind of scared about that, but we'll see what we get.
Wonderful. Anyone else? Well, let's come back down to what was going to be our last question, but I think it fits in really nicely with what Dr. Hilton was asking us. If you had a piece of advice for someone that wanted to start a similar program to what you've done, what would it be?
Just do it. Just do your first idea, try it, and if it fails, it fails, but at least you did it. I think that's the only way you know if it's going to work. For example, I did a take-apart tech station, and the kids loved it. But when you think about K and 1 and even second graders taking things apart. Their mobility isn't the best, and so we had a little blood. And so I kind of decided that if it is a station, which I had to shut it down, that it's really just for those 3, 4, 5, third, fourth, and fifth graders. So, I mean, there are some risks you take when you try new things, but you gotta do it and learn, and it happens. So.
And what I love about it, there's no right way. I mean, you can, some of us do it at recess, some do it in the morning, some do it at night. It's so flexible. You can just kind of examine your school and talk to the teachers and see how you can fit it in.
Yeah, I would definitely say just jumping in and starting small. When we started this, we started with just our little Tinker Lab area with the recycled materials and masking tape, and a challenge, what can you create with the materials that you have? And then from there, we've branched off, and now we have Little Bits, and we have a stop-motion animation station, and we also have like PVC pipe that our PTO donated, and they make marble tracks and all kinds of things. So we've just added to it as we've seen the success with it.
So Leah, can I interrupt, and can you explain a little bit for those who don't know what Little Bits is?
Sure. Little Bits are, they allow you to take pieces that are for programming, and they snap together. So you can create robots, you can create different things that move without having to weld those pieces together. Our students we started off with just exploring them. Oh, it looks like Penny might have some right there.
Some right here.
We started off with the kids just exploring them, and they came down. Little Bits has challenge cards, and so I literally did not tell them how to use these pieces. They went in and they looked at the challenge cards, and they started snapping pieces together. And then the next month, they were able to take pieces from the Tinker Lab, so maybe their toilet paper rolls and cardboard boxes and popsicle sticks, and they got to create something that was new. And I know on the Little Bit site they have examples of projects just to get kids thinking in a different way.
I love that, because it's not restricted just to the tool, as Penny was demonstrating when she was pulling out the pieces, but then you say, you can bring in your own elements as well. I mean, a toilet paper roll doesn't just have to be a toilet paper roll, and while we can do some really great things with it, with glue and sticks and paper, imagine then transforming it with some digital devices. It's pretty exciting stuff. Much better than what we used to do when I was a kid with toilet paper rolls.
That was another one I asked. I just asked if parents had any spare Lego cards, just those pieces they didn't know which fit where, because Little Bits will go with Legos. And I got a big tub of Lego stuff now that they can incorporate with it.
Great. Well, I'm going to ask a hot button question. I'm going to still come back because I know not everyone's shared their advice yet. But this made me think about the Lego talk. How many of you are currently or looking at using a 3D printer in your space? Aha, I see smiles and heads. Anybody want to talk about that experience?
I'll start. We just got one this year, and everything that they say about a 3D printer is true. Everybody gets very excited about it. It's really neat to see the kids get to the point where they are creating their own designs and watching that fabrication. But you have to keep in mind that a 3D printer is cranky, and they frequently malfunction. So far, all of our malfunctions have been very simple to solve, but it can take some time. And there is, although people get very excited about 3D printers, there's no reason there has to be a 3D printer in a school or a school makerspace.
I'm really glad you said that, Leslie. Yeah, a 3D printer is not the, it makes me think about interactive whiteboards about 7 years ago. Everybody was going to transform school with interactive whiteboards, and I certainly don't mean to cast aspersions here. However, we all have seen how that played out. And I think there's a lot to learn with 3D printers, but there's a lot to learn in preparation for what you can do with that as well. And so good advice. It's not a need, and it's certainly not going to change things on its own. So let's go back to the advice. Other advice that you might have for people who are getting started or who are thinking of possibly doing this, what would you let them know to make their journey a little bit easier? What have you learned
Well,
along the way?
definitely start. I mean, at first I was very overwhelmed by the idea that, you know, I was going to have all of these different things for people to do. And then I realized I don't have to do everything at once. I can do one little thing at a time and see how it goes and then build from there. And that's kind of how we're approaching it, just starting small and then building over time.
Megan made me think too, you know, you don't have to be the expert, especially like the little bits. I don't understand all the different parts, and that's okay, because I just look at the kids and say, well, you just play around with it and come and teach me what you've learned.
Yeah, I would say I'd echo that. Would you challenge the kids? Tell the kids to find their project and come in.
Just be able to take a risk. I think that's a big one. But otherwise, no other advice.
So we are almost at the half hour, and we really haven't had many other questions. We haven't had any other questions, actually, from the viewers, although we continue to get new viewers, so that's great. I'm going to encourage viewers once again to go ahead and pose any questions right there on the browser using the blue button, or tweet to us at INELearn on Twitter, and we'll get those questions to the panelists. But since we have you guys here together, does anybody have a question for one of their panel members? Or like I heard someone say, you know, that sparked an idea. Is there anything that you guys want to, we're geeking out here. This is our time to pick each other's brains.
So I actually do have a question. We're going to do stop motion animation, not this, well, obviously not this Friday, it's Friday, geez, next Friday. And I'm just wondering what kind of supplies you have in the stop motion animation station.
We started it a couple months ago, and I had obviously the iPads out, but then we did dry erase boards, the small ones with markers, because they can change that as well. I had toy cars, toy airplane. Those were the basics that I had out, but then I think if you had like puppets or any type of little toy, would be great to use as well. Also, if the kids want to create their own props of any sort, those are the main things that we had at ours.
I would encourage you to
Thanks.
include Play-Doh.
Yeah.
It's a great, easy way to start animation. Sorry.
So Leah, they took their pictures and did they use an app? Or
Mm-hmm. I think it's a free app. It's literally called Stop Motion. And it's very simple to use. When I set up this MakerSpace, I made a tutorial with a video, and then I created a QR code so that the students could walk up, scan the QR code, watch the short video about how to use the app, and then start on their own. And it really is super simple. They literally just take pictures within the app, and it puts them together. They press play, and they can watch their animation.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm curious about puppets. We haven't done puppets yet, but apparently I need to, because it sounds like they went over very well. I'm curious about what kinds of materials you had and maybe how you started off the idea for students.
For our puppets, we had puppets already that we never let the kids touch, and I just thought that was a terrible, terrible thing. So I wanted to give the kids a way to play with the puppets but have a little area. So I bought a puppet stage, did use some of our funds for that. And what's interesting is the puppets tend to find their way out of the puppet stage and into the library, and they kind of walk around. So we have to put a little parameter on that. But they love it. So we didn't make the puppets, but that would be really fun, too, for the kids to make their own puppets and then use them in the puppet stage as well.
We picked up really cheap at Joann's.com a door frame puppet stage. So it's literally pinned up above our door, one of our doors, and it's just rolled up there. And so then when somebody wants to use the puppet stage, they just unroll it and it drops down. They're on the other side of the door putting on the puppet show. So that was a nice solution for us as far as affordability. And somebody else had talked about recycled materials, and I think upcycling is a really great thing to put in a makerspace, first of all, because everybody can afford that. And I think it's good for the kids to see that they can have fun without having to spend a lot of money, too.
So do the kids write their own plays? Do they ad-lib? Is it content related? Or
They just do whatever they want. In ours, they can write, because it's a whiteboard on the front of our puppet stage, so they can write, you know, their titles and then act it out. So they can do pretty much whatever.
You know, it's interesting, and you guys have mentioned a few things about like lessons learned and the puppets disappearing, you know, spreading out, if you would, and injuries and different things like that. When you go one-to-one, or when you go in with technology, you have to establish guidelines, and the best guidelines are the ones that the students buy into. How are you establishing guidelines in your makerspaces, and what kind of student input are you getting from them to make them really meaningful to the students? And not just rules.
I think part of it for us is, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think part of it for our school is thinking about the culture as a whole and what the expectations are for students. We use the 7 Habits at our school, and I feel like that has been a big part in that pride and thinking ahead. So that, I think that that's part of it. And then the hard part for us has been that cleanup, because they know they're done and they need to get somewhere else, and so that cleanup part has been something that we've really had to have them go back and finish cleaning up, and then you may go. So those constant reminders, and once you have those reminders over and over, those seem to stick after a while, because they know what the expectation is and why there's an expectation.
Excellent. Thanks, Leah. Anyone else?
One of our guidelines that actually is the one that I have to deal with the most is being kind to others, and making sure that it remains a safe place as far as how you treat others, because kids can get frustrated because they're trying new things and doing new things, and it's important that they don't express their frustration and angst and anger towards others while they're doing it.
our guidelines have just been born out of necessity as we kind of blindly work our way along. And we do kind of limit the number of kids. We do limit the number of kids in our makerspace. And one reason for that is because I'm not always in the media center, and I don't think that's fair to my assistants to have a group of kids down there and that they have to supervise. Another thing, one thing I really like is our kids can come 1, 2, or 3 recesses, and so I've bought in a bunch of bins, and they know when their recess time is over, they can toss everything they want to save for the next day in a bin, and it'll be there for them the next day. And then you got to find space to store the projects that they're working on. It's been fun, though.
That is an interesting situation, actually, though. You think about, where do you put students' work that they want to hold on to? How many of you guys are able to do that in your makerspace? Allow for students to set things aside? Yeah. Some nodding heads. That's impressive. That's got to be logistically challenging at times. So you guys have really done a great job of sharing. I appreciate everything. We have viewers still here, but we haven't received any questions, and I know your time is extremely important, especially since we've had a slightly manic week with all kinds of closures and delays and that sort of thing. And so I want to thank, first of all of you for joining us again, being here. Some of you I know are coming back on Digital Learning Day, March 13th, and bringing students with you and possibly even checking in, hanging out from your space. For those who are with us, if you want to learn more about what's happening with Digital Learning Month in the state of Indiana, you can visit www.doe.in.gov/elearning. Or, of course, you can follow us on Twitter. Instead of using the hashtag, you use @INELearn, and we pretty much share everything there as well. And we're on Google Plus too, and I'll make sure I tweet out those links rather than shooting them off again. And we did get a comment, it looks like, from one of our viewers. It says, "I love that our media centers are the innovation center at so many of our schools, bringing in new ways of learning and changing culture." Now, I know none of you ladies had someone send that for you. That, I'm sure, is a legitimate post, but I agree 100%. Both our Project Lead the Way and we've got PBL with New Tech Networks. and we've got media specialists. And you guys are just doing so much. I think Megan really struck me when she named all of her roles in her district and the different hats that she wears. And I know media specialists, even if you're not teaching classes, as an English teacher in that respect, if you're not teaching a content area class in addition to your responsibilities, you are wearing many hats. And just tweeted, as a matter of fact, ironically, just tweeted today an article that was shared, and I believe maybe by one of you, that talked about media specialists and the roles and how they're changing in our schools across the country. And it's just really impressive. So hats off to all 6 of our innovative educators here today. I really appreciate your time. Since we don't have any more questions, we're going to go ahead and go off air just to give you a little bit of breathing time. So thanks, everybody, for being here. Really appreciated it.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.